Yes. Good evening. My name is Rhodes Dyson, and I'm the art curator at Busboys and Poets. And I want to welcome you to another evening, another Art on the Line, where we're going to discuss the visual arts and exciting opportunities and interesting people. Uh, uh, um, as some of you may be aware, we're moving to Baltimore. We're going to open up a new Busboys and Poets restaurant in Baltimore and in Columbia, Maryland. And I wanted to take an opportunity to reach out to connect the Baltimore community that we will be a part of. And this evening, I've asked Kirk Shannon Butts, who is the curator and public arts administrator and public arts program individual for BOPA, Baltimore Office of Promotion of the Arts. I'm new. I'm learning this, and have him. And we've asked him to share the excitement, the interesting things, the arts, the visual arts that are occurring in the neighborhoods and communities of Baltimore. So, welcome, Kirk.
I'm so happy to be here. Busboys and Poets is a place I've been to many times. I attended Howard University for a year and a half, and
HU.
right, and my friends and I, we would always grab a bite there, or go see two events at Busboys, and Poets is always welcoming and fun time. So the Baltimore Office of Promotion in the Arts, we all welcome you to our city. We're looking forward to more locations. So thank you for having me tonight.
Well, absolutely. As I say, there's so much. It's so rich. I know when I was at Micah, and I would see the pockets of creativity and uniqueness, and I always enjoyed the creativity, being spurred creatively, saying, "Oh my goodness, I never would have thought of that." And so, as I say, Baltimore has. We're looking forward to being in Baltimore as well.
One of the things that I moved to Baltimore from New York City about 7 years ago. However, my father's from Baltimore, and I spent a lot of time growing up here. My mother's from New Jersey. I moved here from Harlem. But one of the things you often hear is about where's New York? In many ways, the art scene in Baltimore is the old New York. If you were looking for that pure creativity, innovation, people thinking way outside of the box, Baltimore is your place.
Oh, I tell you, yeah, you can see that. As I tell you what, I drove by the Union State or the railroad station, and I see the art, the where the art is displayed on the top of the building.
Yeah.
And I said, that's great. That's really a great idea, downtown Baltimore. Well, let's talk. Let me introduce you. Let me share their bio with the audience. Okay. Kirk Shannon Butts is a public arts administrator, curator, and filmmaker dedicated to emerging and underrepresented talent throughout the spectrum of arts and media. Shannon Butts holds a BA in marketing and arts management from the American College and an MFA in communications with a focus on film, TV production from Chapman University, located in Orange, California. I guess we want to say hello to Schroeder too. Schroeder just said hi.
Hi, Schroeder.
So I want to expand about your film, but let me just say about your filmmaking background. And as you just were talking about your fashion background, but before I get into that, I also want to share that, just like you said, you came from Harlem to New York, and you currently serve as a public art and curation manager for the Baltimore Office of Promotion of the Arts, BOPA. And previous, because this is very important. That previous to that, that you were the gallery curator and gallery manager for the gallery in Baltimore at Baltimore City Hall. That was major. I mean, I saw those shows, from Derek Adams. That was major. So that's why I'm sorry?
I really enjoyed that, and I feel like that was a real turning point in art history in Baltimore for emerging artists and visual artists. I feel like that was the first time, not just because I think a lot of people will see it as this opportunity for African American artists, but it's not true. We were showing all artists. We have one of the first trans show ever at the gallery in Baltimore City Hall that brought national attention. We did shows for women. We featured, we had shows for, because it was municipal, our calendar represented what was going on in the society. So we had shows for Latin History Month. We had shows for Black History Month. We had shows for Women History Month. We had shows for International Black Women's Month. We had shows for Asian Heritage Month. So it was really the gamut. But everyone, of course, caught on because the cool hip shows were the Derek Adams show, which was like a global success. I mean, his agents were there from Europe. Everyone came down from New York. We heard from Thelma Golden. They were like, Thelma Golden is coming. So it was just so much hype, but it lived up to it all. But the most important thing is that it provided Baltimore emerging talent a platform like Show the Cherry to be seen and heard, because if I found it terrific, I knew everyone else would. And that was what it was all about.
And I think that's the important thing about it, Carrie. When you find it, you want to share it. And
right.
The blessing is you have the opportunity to amplify the voice. That's a really wonderful opportunity. But talk about your filmmaking. That's the other thing I think that's fascinating about your background.
Well, one of the things that I was working on at the gallery in Baltimore Hall, we had this under gallery that I was in the process of turning into a photography and moving art in gallery. But yes, my background is in film. I've done 2 feature films and maybe 5 short films, and I've done a couple music videos, one of which all the way to #1 on .com, which is crazy, with an artist, Naj. That video is called Love.
Who is the artist? Who's the video?
Artist? It's a neo soul artist named Naj out of New York. He's out of New York too. And so, yeah, it was crazy. That happened about 10 years ago. And yeah, we were, just was unexpected. People responded to this little video we did, and it went to #1. Like Beyonce was on, Drake, Rihanna, Lil Wayne, but we were #1. It was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. Mm-hmm. So that's my filmmaking. I mean, I'm now focusing on curating. I do, of course, but now I'm in the curating lane, and I really enjoy working with emerging artists and unsung artists. That's what I do, what I like.
I think that the eyes, or the sensibility that in terms of film and fashion and internationalness and place all mix together to bring your sensibilities. And right. I guess I'm curious about your position at BOPA and how that all fits into the scope of who you are and what you want to do.
Oh, excuse me. So BOPA is the agency that provides opportunities for art agencies here in Baltimore. And so talk about amplification. It is like the whole bundle of everything that you can amplify, and with that there are lots of grants that we can provide artists in the city, and just opportunities and platforms that are bigger than the gallery in Baltimore City Hall, because the entire city is kind of like our canvas, and we can connect artists to communities in Baltimore.
I just, when I think about BOPA, I think about some of the arts things that it supports. Is I know that I loved Artscape, and though I never got a chance to go to the Light. What is that?
Oh, Light City.
Light City.
Yeah.
I think that the process that probably was one of the most fascinating projects. But I also know that it's in the neighborhoods that BOPA encourages activities in the neighborhoods as well as at locations.
Yes, Baltimore is all about its. It is all about its neighborhoods. Patrick, I don't know if you have that.
Should we go to the images?
Yeah, because Baltimore is all about its neighborhoods. There are 14 districts, and within the city of Baltimore, there are almost at least, I want to say 250 neighborhoods. It's a little more, a little less. So every community and neighborhood here has sort of.
All right, we want to go to next one. Next.
Has this
the next one. Okay. I guess we really can't. We couldn't zoom in on that one, but okay.
But you get the idea that this is how the city is broken up into all these communities there, and each community really has its own small little identity. And so the first Light City really focused on, existing. And so the second year, it branched out into all the communities. They were given the opportunity to present proposals, and then light installations were installed in those communities. And it could have been just an event that involved kids with candles. So, like I said, every neighborhood took on its own personality and interpretation of how they would want lights to be in their community.
I was also thinking about Artscape, but I don't know. When it comes back, is that going to be also in different communities or?
Well, Artscape should be back 2022. Everyone go get your vaccination.
Yes.
And, so 2022 Artscape should be back in focus. And obviously Artscape is our BOPA's big event, and it's definitely a part of Baltimore's blood and heartbeat and anatomy of Baltimore, if you will. So yes, we're looking forward to having it back. Yeah, Artscape is a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. It's a big deal, and I know many of us, we all miss it. What is it about your work and the community in Baltimore that excites you?
I think the city of Baltimore, to me, just feels very always on the verge.
Huh.
Right? So
I'm sorry. I mean that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What are you gonna say? Yeah, go ahead.
No, but that just hits. I see that. I feel that. Always on the verge.
Right. For someone like me, when you come from New York, it's New York. Everything's happening. But Baltimore is always something's going to happen. And I find in the arts community, the artists are part of that. The artists respond to that, and so the artists that I've met and the artists that I work with, their art is presenting that. The artist's language, the artist's aesthetic, it's all coming through in their work. And if you meet them as a curator, we go out and meet the artist. That's where you really, for me, that's where I really get it. I think artists think it's all about their work, but it's about your personality too. It's about your personal story, because your personal story drives what you put on your canvas, how you construct your sculpture. It is so significant.
And the puppets that you create, that was for you, Schroeder. Should we move?
Yeah, Patrick, can we move to some of the artists?
Right, because I think that's a good lead into The next slide.
And we can talk about some of the artists.
Oh yeah, because I was looking at the group, and the next slide.
Right.
Okay.
So this is when the pandemic hit, this was the show I was working on. This is Ernest Shaw. This is one of his amazing painting. He's such an unsung hero. A lot of people know his work from murals, but he's a significant painter, and he's very much a part of the landscape of artists. So a lot of the emerging artists, they really. I met Ernest before I even met him because all of the artists were talking about Ernest. And
Right.
so I had to go meet Ernest.
Right.
And so I went to meet him at Motor House to do a show.
Right. That's where I met him too.
Right, which was going to be which was going to be the show before the entire city shut down. And I went to and I saw all of his amazing paintings, and I was just listening to him, and on my way out, because I wanted him to be in the show I was working on, and before I left, I told him, "You are bigger than my show." And so we're gonna have to figure something out. And you can be in the show if you want, but I feel like your body of work deserves its own space.
Oh, absolutely. I was looking at the size when at the work at the Motor House, and they're and I think that's one of the conversations he and I had just recently too, was the size, because it's monumental in ways, definitely.
I feel like he's an artist that people really need to see in a proper space. I've seen his work, but I feel like it hasn't been in its proper space yet. And even at Motor House, because I felt like you saw the show at Motor House, even though it was well curated for sure, it just felt so tight. And those pieces needed to breathe, and you needed to be able to look around and see all the images and all the power that was coming out of those paintings. I mean, it was a little overwhelming. And I remember, I think we talked about the other day. I looked at some, and then I had to go back and look at them again because they were so overwhelming. And the one that sticks out the most, one of my favorite, is he did a portrait of Stickney, the kid that was executed, the 14-year-old. And it's so powerful. Google him, people. Ernest Shaw.
Ernest Shaw, yes, he's wonderful. So should we go to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, this is Christopher Betten. Oh man, Christopher is in residence at the Creative Alliance, and he's an amazing painter. Very off the radar, but he needs to be on the radar. I'm trying to get him on the radar.
I am seeing this huge deluge of African American artists that are doing portraitures. Right. I think that this whole idea of identity, from Amy Sherald, kind of Kehinde, and Ernest, and Amani Lewis, and all these, and I look at Christopher's, Jarrell Gibbs, and these tremendous, these powerful images, realism. Thelma Golden would call it what? Romantic, right? A romantic, but they're just, and Will Watson, and just so amazing renditions that are exciting, because portraits can kind of be stayed, right? Stayed, but these are
that's part of their significance as African American painters. They're not going to give you that classical in the painterly sense. They're giving you a modern classical romantic take on Black life, whether it's present. Someone like Monica and Christopher, they're painting today, but they have all of that history that's coming through. So it's so textured and deep. I had a conversation probably 15 years ago, before I even knew I would be a curator, with a very good friend of mine who is now one of the top art collectors in this country. His name's Hal Wynn and Arthur Lewis. They have a whole collection in California. And I was telling him then, as he was beginning, they were beginning their, to start their collection. And just, they didn't even know they were going to become collectors. They were just buying art they loved. And so I was telling him that, because he was talking about Black African-American portraiture. And I was telling him, well, we are catching up. So the artists are painting, 500 years of not being painted. So that is the significance of portraiture. So these artists are painting 500 years of painting. So before we can get to abstract and all these other genres, they're giving an homage to their great grandparents, our ancestors. So that is the significance of it, and this is why it's caught on. I mean, most people talk about the trend in Black art. It's not a trend. It is a visibility that is now a possibility. You can now own a world-class painting of this, like this image right here you see,
right.
Or Amy Sherrill, which does have some elements of abstract in them,
yeah.
but it's still a figurative painting, and you know exactly what it is.
Right.
But
that makes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, for me, that's what it is. The portraiture is like 500 years of painting and the invisible, our invisible ancestors and our invisible selves, quite frankly.
Right, and that makes so much sense, and I look at all these works, because like with the piece that Christopher has, there are the Ku Klux Klan on the side. I mean, that history, that background, because I gather this is like grandfather and
or great grandfather. And also, this is something you're not going to find at the Metropolitan Museum of Art or the Whitney, because those painters that came before Christopher, they're not going to put the KKK there. They're not going to put Ernest Shaw, put Stickney. They're not going to put them and paint him in their work. We are, and that's our significance, and that's why this work is so timely. And also, African American artists now are going to university and studying painting. They're getting PhDs in painting and theory. They're getting PhDs in cultural anthropology. So it is rich and deep and like never ever before in the history of art.
Mm-hmm. And that so that's exciting. So we just. I'm sorry.
Can we go to the next one?
Yes.
Oh my God! This is S.B. Frazier. Do you know S.B.?
Yes, I know S.B.
This is what.
Yes.
I love this. This is all hand. This is a pencil, a drawing, a charcoal. I mean, it's stunning, and this is large. It's like 20 by 24 or something. This is one of my favorite pieces. I love this piece. And S.B. is a unsung artist that I did a show with a few years ago at Gallery CA, and it was well received and got a lot of attention for her. And I love her work.
Kabibi did a show of hers at the August Myers at the Myers.
Right. Yeah.
And that's when another time I saw her work.
Yeah.
So Kabibi and Chuku.
She's brilliant. She's definitely off. People need to know who S.B. Frazier is.
SB's work is fabulous.
Look her up.
Mm-hmm.
And she's collectible. She's affordable. Like, you can build your collection on her.
I love this bow on that head, on the hat, and then the trees in the background. I just love it.
This is brilliant. I mean, this speaks to my fashion and film sensibility, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Black and white. It has hat. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. It is beautiful.
This is her church lady hat series.
No, I have not seen that.
Next, Patrick, please.
Okay. So now I like this one too. I mean, all of these I've loved, but
right. I tried to get to you. It wasn't hard because we have so much talent in Baltimore. But this is a artist I met. He graduated from Micah last year. His name is Emeka Cheku, and he's doing this sort of Afro-futurism, and it's very spectacular. He had a solo show at the UB Blake last year, I think, last summer or something. He's very talented. He has a singular voice, as you can see from this piece. It's just really dynamic, and
it is dynamic.
and it speaks to so many elements. I mean, it's Afrofuturism, but yet it's abstract, but yet it is a figurative piece. And there's very few colors. It's black, white, pink, and gold. It's beautiful, and he's very talented.
Very talented. You know, I wonder. Sometimes I ask artists, where do you see, you get these ideas at night when you dream, and the colors that you put in there? Where, how? And they just look at me and they say, "Well, we just do it. You know, we just do it." You know,
right? They say that's not real. You go deeper the next time, Carol, because for someone like him, his background was telling me everything, because he was studying architecture, but he wanted to be an artist. So this is how he blended it together. It kind of has these geometrical shapes within the painting, and I wouldn't say he's from family, but I know his family is from Nigeria. So it speaks to that sort of world view of what living in America as a African and becoming African American, I guess, in a sense. So the Afro, the power, and Black power, because Black power and African power can be totally different things. That speaks to diversity. That's one thing I've learned as a curator, is the diversity amongst Black people ourselves. Growing up in Harlem and being in Harlem, you learn that too. I remember, walking down the street and you see someone who looks like you, but they speak Spanish, or they speak
right,
some African language. So you think that they're you, but they're African or Colombian or Brazilian or even from Europe.
Right.
They're not from Alabama.
Right. I experienced that when I would visit my son in Florida, and that there would be people of color, bronze, brown, dark brown, and they would be speaking Spanish and other languages.
Right.
Yeah. So should we go to the next one?
Do you know this artist? Do you recognize?
I know of her. I know of.
Yeah.
I think Mertice has had a show.
Yeah. Yes, Mertice is one of her agents, and she has an agent on the West Coast as well, and the Outsiders.
We should say Mertice Gallery, so that we.
Right here on my wall. His name is Andrew Gray. He's with that agency too.
Okay.
He's another amazing artist, Andrew. Monica is. Every morning I do what I call my daily reading and research. And one morning, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, she came across, it was like this a painting, and then this young woman was receiving an award. It turned out to be Monica. I Googled her. She was at MICA. I reached out to her, asked if I could do a studio visit, went over, saw all these amazing paintings. And I think this one or a replica or something, or was in her studio when I saw her. And she is really significant, because I feel like this is one of the first times I've ever seen a painter painting Black youth on this scale. I mean, this is a real Black 16-year-old teenager given all the beauty that 18th century portrait is given, all the detail, the attention. He has an afro in a bandana wrapped around his head, but he could be the king of England, or the son of a king in Africa. He with modern clothes on, right? And then the whole idea of the tonality of the green on the green, and this. And
the hand, I mean, the tonality in the hand, I mean, the skin.
Her attention is unbelievable.
It is. It really is unbelievable.
And she says she paints so fast, like she can paint something like this in a week with this much detail. It's unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. I should ask you, how many of these artists that you're showing me went to MICA?
So far, I think all of them.
All of them. And that says a lot about the artists, and it says a lot about MICA, and I'm really glad to see so many people of color doing such excellent work coming out of MICA.
And we also need to say, Micah, you can do better and get more faculty and people in position, deans and administrators there, because one of the things that all of the artists that I talk to say that they do have Black professors because I know artists, but it's not enough. That we're sitting here looking at all this talent coming out of there. They need Black teachers and representation that is only going to help them be better painters and shape their work.
Right.
I did an artist talk last summer, and I think there were 3 artists, and they all went to MICA. And one said they had one professor their entire time they were there, and another said they had none the entire time. So that's not good. Yeah,
when you consider what's in terms of the art world, it's not good. It really isn't. So should we go to the next slide?
Yes.
But hopefully they could continue to grow. They're growing.
Right.
They're growing.
So this is an artist I discovered over the summer at our pop-up, and her name is Raquel Thompson. And this is much more abstract. I'm a fan of abstract.
Me too.
And yeah, this is all about memory and psychology. I think she was a psychologist until last year she started painting. So she's a very new artist. And these are all hand painted with she's using like a paint crayon. And it's just lines. It's in real life. It's so stunning. You have to see this.
Yeah, I would love to see it. I would love to, because it's stunning. Just because I'm looking at the process. I'm looking at and that's stunning first. And the green. It as I say, I saw several of her. She submitted, and
I sent it to her.
She did. So I was looking at several of them, and I was going, this is really wonderful.
The people are going to respond to her at the pop-up. So when I got there, someone was at the end. They came back to get the painting. They bought it right off the street at the pop-up. Like, people respond to her work. It's just so engaging and
it draws you in. It just feels somewhat organic and moving, and
I feel she when she talks about her work, it's about psychology. So I feel like people look at it and they feel something, and it's speaking to them, whether it's good or bad. But that it's speaking to your experience, and the abstraction of it. It creates that illusion in yourself. And so I wasn't surprised that, the people who bought it and they were like, I need to take it home now.
Right. Got you. So I guess is that the last one, I think, of the artists? And I think that
you are.
Oh, no, it isn't. Yay. I just fell in love with this one, right?
This is Mckinley Wallace, another MICA student. And he's a grad student right now. This is a series he did. I forget what the name of it, but it's basically about civil rights. And it's all in this motif of black, blue, and the, gray, white area. Just very powerful, very thoughtful, steeped in history. And it's such a wonderful way for youth and kids to learn about history without, when books are miseducating our youth, something as simple as this is so powerful. You get it. It's beautiful. It's art. You can just stare at it and interpret it. But is what it is. That is a real scene from our history, and not just African American. This is Black. This is American history. Someone trying to go to college and get an education, and you have to be escorted by the National Guard.
Right. And to me, it's subtle, but it's also big. It's also says a lot, but it's also kind of subtle. And I like that part of it, and all that white space, but what that says in the corner is huge. It's a huge statement.
Right. It's like almost like a photograph inside of the boxes, right?
Right.
And that blue, is that the sky, or is it just the blue border? Right. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. So yeah, he's I'm very interested. I love that piece.
Yeah.
And would love to see the series. So
I know. I don't know if the whole series. I know pieces. I think again, he was at a show at UD Blake, one of our venues here in Baltimore. And I think there may have been 2 or 3 up at one time, but I don't think I've seen more than that. And maybe even at Creative Lines may have had a couple of the pieces, and we had them up too. Some of them did an artist pop up for Art in August, because we couldn't have Artscape, so he was a part of that, and we had quite a few then. And but yeah, they're very powerful. To see them in a space together would be really wonderful.
Okay, I know you got, I think, another artist to talk about, because I have another question about all the spaces, these art spaces in Baltimore. But let's talk about this artist before I ask you that question.
This is another artist who I came to because other people were talking to about him. I went to a studio visit, and the artist had painted the guy in this photograph. This is a photograph. And so he was like, oh, his name's DJ. He's actually a photographer. He's here at MICA. He's really talented. He's very nice. And he went on and on. And so again, when I got back to my office, I was still at the gallery in Baltimore City Hall. I reached out to him, and he came in and showed me some of his photographs. And he has such a backstory that I'm not even going to go into it, but people, please look him up. His name is Derek DJ Smith, and he's so talented. He was featured in our 2020 show. Just really powerful images. You'll laugh, you cry, as they say. I mean, just a terrific mind. He has something to say, and we definitely need to give him a platform to say it. And his photography is just exquisite. And again, these are young African American people with so much to say, and thank God they're getting the background to shape it. It's not just he's taking photographs, he's studying, so he's learning. And when I was speaking with him, I was introducing him to other photographers that he hadn't heard of, and so to shape his work even further. But he's very, very, he's a special person for sure.
I'm definitely gonna look him up. Look him up. I think because I know we're getting ready. I think the next section is about the districts or something. But I'm looking. I'm looking at all of the opportunities you have. Creative opportunities for people to exhibit. The Creative Alliance. Wasn't there an 806 or a 608? There were several. There's a lot of gallery spaces, aren't there?
Right. So
before we get into that, go to that piece.
Right. So this is that's the Black Arts District, which is Pennsylvania Avenue. But yeah, there are tons of art spaces here. The UB Blake, which I just spoke of, which is in the downtown sort of arts district. I guess it is part of Bromo, the Bromo Center, but it's a multidisciplinary center. They have dance there. So it's called UB Blake. There's also Creative Alliance. There's also Walla Gallery. There's another cool hipster gallery downtown called current space. There's a place that one of our artists, Eric Antonio Benitez, he and his comrades, they have a place called, I think it's called Parlor on St. Paul Street, I think it is. There's Gallery CA, which is kind of an open gallery you can do. There's MAP, Maryland Art Place. There's Goya. There's
oh yeah, Goya, Joyce, right?
Yeah, and
Joyce
Amy.
Scott.
Amy is kind of in Amy, who runs Goya, is a really good curator. If you could connect with her, she has earned her place at the top. Also, Gallery Martise, of course.
Right, gallery, right.
Shows really amazing shows and always kind of pulls out some really unique talent. And overall, I feel like people should go seek them out. They're the arts districts. Within these arts districts, there are spots there that might speak to your sort of aesthetic. So the Black Arts District, as I said, it just became official last year with a sort of like a historic area. So that's here in the historic part of Baltimore for African American, Pennsylvania Avenue. There's the Highlandtown area, which I kind of
Should we show the next slide? Those slides, because this is so we show those places.
Yeah. So I think this is
Bromo, right?
Bromo. So this is the Bromo area.
Okay, explain to people what the Bromo area is. Those of us that know, kind of.
Okay, so the Bromo area is downtown Baltimore. It's a little north of the Inner Harbor. This is probably Howard Street, and it's also known as the entertainment district. That's where our theaters are. So when touring companies such as the Lion King or Hamilton, that's where they would be in this area. And I'm actually working with Emily, who oversees the Bromo Arts District, and we're trying to incorporate a light artist element to the arts and entertainment district. So if you're a light artist, a sound artist, please reach out to me. We're trying to compile a list of sound and light artists to feature there in that community.
Okay. We should go to the next one.
No, this is Station North Arts District. This is in the upper Baltimore or upper Charles Street area. This is at North and Charles Street, and this kind of is like the first kind of official arts district in Baltimore. And this is the Howard Theater. What is that? The Charles Theater is across the street, and Micah is around the corner. The Lazarus Center. So this is very central and very popular. And there's galleries around there. I know Metro Gallery is right on the corner, and there's a new kind of gallery space that's inside of that new condominium that's there. So there are opportunities in all these spaces.
Mm-hmm. So this is my question. So I was listening to the rich opportunities, the rich places that are in Baltimore for artists to exhibit, and I also recognize there is the art school, and I know there are also courses at University of Maryland, Baltimore, but I was in a conversation with an art journalist that wrote for a national newspaper, and we were talking about art opportunities and the wonderful art that was in Baltimore. But one of the interesting comments, he says, but most of the artists are really trying to get to Washington because they think that's where the collectors are. And I was just kind of taken aback by that statement, because and I still am taken aback. So I want to say that. What are your thoughts about that?
That's nonsense. The collectors are wherever the good art is. So Amani Lewis is here in Baltimore. Andrew Gray is here in Baltimore. Monica Jarrell Gibbs. I spoke earlier of my friend Arthur Lewis and Hal Wynn. They are huge collectors. They bought from Baltimore. They bought Amy Sherrill 10 years ago when no one knew who Amy Sherrill was. So it is all about producing great art. It does not matter where you are, and seizing opportunities like we were just talking about. Finding a space that could give your show and you promote your art, and so people will find out who you are. Collectors will find you. Trust.
Because as I said, I always have seen this rich Baltimore arts, and as I said, and just like you said, and so I'm seeing it just even amplifying. I'm seeing it just, as I said, when I saw what Jarrell just got this part of a possibility in New York, and as you say, Amani Lewis. So it is incumbent, and I think a smart art collector does research.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think artists, I think you need to be open and flexible and very, diplomatic when dealing with potential art collectors, and you need to treat everyone who is interested in your art as a potential art collector, because I think people think that they're just buying a piece of art, but it's like anything else. Once you buy one piece, you start. You realize how special that is. I have a story. This is a true story, and it has nothing to do with art specifically, but the behavior. I have a friend who's one of the top stylists in the world. And I always bought these really cheap sunglasses off the street. And he has, of course, the like $1,000 sunglasses. And I'm like, I don't think I would ever pay, a lot for sunglasses. And he said, Kirk, trust me, buy a really nice pair. It's going to change everything. And so he and we were in Italy traveling. And so the whole scenario is crazy because we were together, but we broke off, and I ended up in the Dior shop, or Yves Saint Laurent, in Paris, in Rome at the Spanish Steps. I go into the store, I try on these sunglasses, and I was like, oh my God. And so I bought these sunglasses, and he was shocked because I was like, I would never do that. But once you see quality, once you feel the best,
right,
more, and you appreciate it. I don't have like 100 pair of sunglasses, but the ones I have are to me the best, and they fit what I needed, and I'm not going to break them. The other ones I would leave on the train, I would sit on them. Trust and believe I'm not sitting on my Yves Saint Laurent sunglasses.
Right. But just like you said, you get spoiled. You're like, oh man, I totally understand. I totally relate.
And it becomes a collection, like art. That's what happens with people. They look around their home and they're like, oh, let me find a piece to complete this. Let me do this. And that's how collectors most begin, because most people are not multi-billion-dollar collectors. Most people start with the small collection. And if you go online, go on YouTube and I listen to art collectors who are now like 70 years later, the older couples, and they're now bequeathing their collection. That's how they all started. They went to a gallery, they saw a piece of art, they talked to the gallerist, they bought it, and then they build a relationship. But today, artists, you can do that yourself. I feel like, I don't know if Short is still on here. I feel like that's what happened when he did his show in Baltimore City Hall. He was there that night, and people, we must have sold like 10 pieces of art that night. Because they could talk to him about it, he could tell them, and then they would come over to me. It was crazy. Like literally, we probably sold 10 pieces of art that night.
I just want to tell our audience, or mention to our audience, that I know it is wonderful. It's fascinating to listen to Kirk, but I also want to encourage you all, if you have any questions, to be sure and ask, so that we can share the responses. Because as I said, I'm so much enjoying his comments and the breadth vision and experiences that he brings to this conversation and to his art. So I have a question. I have another question waiting on the audience questions. What are three things about this art journey that has taught you about African American art and culture, about life, and about yourself? What are three things on your journey that have taught you about the African American culture, life, and yourself? That's a big question.
It is a big question. I feel like, when people say you have to stand on the shoulders of others, I mean, the response is the same. That we are so resilient. I feel like we're in this very unique time where, unlike never before, that living artists are doing, Black African American artists are doing well overall. You have artists who are living selling for $50 million. So the value in the art is significant, and it gives, in a weird sort of American consumerism way, it gives value, which does translate to certain securities. For me, personally, it makes my job pleasurable. Meeting these great voices and visionaries and people who are willing to tell their story, and often our story. For instance, the Mckinley Wallace, who's telling our story. He's not just telling his own story. In work, I feel like curating is something that most people in general don't know, but particularly African American people. And if you look at the statistics, I think less than 3% of curators in America are African American. So this is a very particular
new thing.
Yeah. So we're pioneering, but I always think the same things that African Americans did for sports, the same thing that African Americans did for entertainment. This is what we bring to finance. This is what we bring to the arts and arts institution. We're dynamic. We think out of the box. We are capable of seeing things that people that are in those glass and ivory towers, not only do they not see, they don't think about, they don't care. We care.
Yes, we do. We do. We definitely care. I have so many questions personally to ask you. And I feel that, I remember our first conversation was, oh, that's right. We still have these images. Thank you, Pat.
Images. Ask me questions.
No, let's go ahead and talk about these images that you have.
Well, this is one featuring the Highland Town art walk that goes on. So once we get back to post-COVID life, remember that Highland Town, they have their artist walks.
Okay. All right. Where's Highland Town?
Highland Town is on the east side of Baltimore City, past Patterson Park, above Fells Point.
Okay, got you. Fells Point.
And I know Patterson Park. I go there to look at. There are like 4 galleries there. That's where Creative Alliance is there. Why Art is there. There's another. I think it's the Highland Town Gallery is there.
Wow.
So
just so much. Mm-hmm. Can we go to the next slide? Okay. Oh, these okay. Before we get to that one, I do want to ask you who your influences have been before we get to Oscar Michaud.
Right. So definitely Oscar Michaud. I have 3 that I presented to you. Oscar Michaud.
Are these are influences or people that you want to invite to dinner?
Oh, okay, yeah. They're the same.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's roll with it. Okay.
Well, in terms of influences, I feel like I don't think anyone can not mention their parents. And so my father passed away when I was very young, so I don't remember him that much. But my mother was the greatest influence. You know, I grew up in a house that was just like this. I now know I was living in the inverse of the real world, because inside of my home, my mother, my father, my sisters and brothers, it was like utopia. It was like the perfect republic. It was the perfect democracy. Everything was discussed. There was nothing off limit. I was exposed to almost everything. And so I grew up in this sort of rich environment, rich with knowledge, rich with books. My mother loved to read. She studied English at Morgan State. That's how she came to Baltimore from New Jersey and met my father here. So we grew up just aware, you know, this is pre-woke, stuff like that, you know, but we were just aware and informed, and she made sure that we knew how the world really operated, you know. I never had the sit down talk that they talk about, but she demonstrated it in other ways. And again, and just recently I realized that I had this experience with my mother, and it was like, okay, that's what she was demonstrating it rather than telling me it, right? About you have to be careful when you go out here because your body is not safe all of the time. But she walked me through it rather than lecture me about it and give me that speech that we all have. Now you have to tell your Black kids. And I really, like, maybe 5 years ago, I thought about that experience with her, and I was like, wow, that was genius how she did it, because I got it, but it wasn't so terrifying, you know, by having the talk, because the talk can be terrifying for some kids. And so and also she was an art lover. We always had a large, like, landscape over our sofa, which she changed like every 5 years or something. Then we had these 4 panels. One was a Moreau, one was a Kandinsky, one was a Picasso, and one was a Monet. So I woke up every day, come down the staircase, and there were these 4 pieces of art every single day. And then we had she had this large sculpture that eventually was like a 4-foot sculpture of a little boy, and eventually I grew to be taller than the little boy. So fascinating, you know, growing up with that experience. And
that's wonderful.
Yeah. So, and I remember when I was in my first year of college, I took a art history class, and when I mentioned to them that we had these paintings, you know, a Miro and a Kandinsky in the class, they thought I was rich, and I was like, they're not real. I mean, they're not the
original
first, you know, paintings. They were just copies, but that it doesn't matter. It was we still had that art in our home, and I got to see it every day, and that's what's important. It doesn't matter if it's a real
right, exactly. It doesn't matter, exactly. That you learned about them.
Right. And
So
I knew who those artists were.
So talking about influences, this is an influence that both you and I share. This goes very deep into the core of who I am, Aaron Douglas and his work. So tell us a little bit about why Aaron Douglas is important to you as well.
Well, one, when I was a member of the YMCA in Harlem, and he had a mural there, which was,
oh my God, he sure
did you ever see it?
I don't think I saw that one, but I remember hearing about it.
Yeah, and it's I think it's still there, and so for me, he is such, at his time, he would have been considered like an Afrofuturistic person, because this silhouette, which people know now, this sort of African motif, this had never been done before he did it. Never.
The side profile.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, so he was taking sort of like the African, but making it modern, and then using these colors, because they would have never used these sort of light, what are they? Pastel colors. They would have
Right,
been
right,
they've been dark and saturated.
right.
So he was so ahead of his time, and
Yeah, he was.
definitely underrated and unsung. People still don't
Yeah,
know
he was.
who this is.
You had another influence. We kind of passed it by. Patrick, can we go back and say something about Oscar Michaud? Go to Oscar Michaud, right? Because I
Right.
know that,
I
especially
mean,
as a filmmaker.
there's no other. I mean, this man made what 73 films with no money.
Yeah.
When you talk about people innovating and people pioneering and people being a genius and people passionate and people, following their dreams, it doesn't get any more dreamy than Oscar Michaud. This guy made 73 films on film. There was no video, there was no smartphone. He made films. These are real films that he made all over the country with essentially no money,
Mm-hmm.
and got them into theater.
Mm-hmm. It's the importance of representation, right? Especially during that time.
Right, and they were all black cast, all black crews. I mean, it's just it's remarkable.
It's remarkable. It really is. And I guess we should go to the last slide. These are all influences, and if you could invite these are people that you would invite to your studio or to dinner, if you could.
I mean, imagine what Basquiat would say about
Oh my goodness,
what's going on today. I mean, he never knew. That's part of his demise. He didn't know that what happened to him in his short lifetime could happen, but he wanted it. And it all happened, and it happened probably way too fast. And then, he was in a whole different time period. You think, African American artists, you think that you don't have any supporters and people you can trust. Imagine him; he truly was the only one.
Mm-hmm.
There was no other, none.
Mm-hmm.
Out there on his own,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he made all that brilliant work, all that brilliant.
Right. Kirk, I have to tell you that I could go on. I could find so many things to talk with you about because the lens by which you see things is fascinating and deep. What you help me to see, I'm sure you help all of us to see something different. And I think that's the role of the curator is that it takes our sight and our insight to another level. And I am so grateful. Thank you, Jacqueline. I really appreciate that of the introduction, and I really look forward to more conversations. And I look forward to the work and working with the artists and being another support venue for creativity and artists in Baltimore. Do you have any closing remarks or statement that you'd like to?
I want to say that I'm going to be passing my artist to you because I think that space, as I said when we first started, that the whole sort of connection that you and poets, and not with the and with people there for events. You're an amazing curator yourself, so.
Well, thank you.
It's going to be a great experience. I want the artists that I work with, I always call them my artists. I want them to.
I do too. I do too.
I want them to have to show their work and show talent. And I think a place where people are really moving through the art, a gallery or museum, is brilliant. So,
right.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
And I appreciate that trust, because I think that the role of the curator is to amplify the voice, but it's also a relationship. You have to build a trust with the artist, that you trust, you see what they're trying to say, you see it, and you want to, take it to the next level. Alicia said that there were some questions that came from the audience, and I was just waiting to see. Oh, here we go. Zion's art. Can we get a list of the names of the artists? Okay, sure. I can. I should probably go back on there because I do have.
And then you can. Right.
Pardon me.
I was going to say I can email you, right?
Oh, okay. But you gave me the list. So we can go ahead and go back in and put the list.
Right.
So we'll put that information in, and I apologize, I didn't. And here we have Shara Watkins. Where would some of the places upcoming filmmakers and authors can go for mentorship in Baltimore?
Bopa, we do the film office. So reach out to me.
Okay. We have your email, your contact information.
Yep.
Yeah, I know we do. I do. But we'll put it up in a second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Yeah, you have my email, my Instagram, my website at Bopa.
Right, there we put your email and Instagram and such. Okay, there was another question, and it says from Jessia Gabin, how is the next generation being exposed to this artwork and these artists, and or talk about the importance of artists and residences? You know,
that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yes, artists in residencies are good because it allows artists to escape to usually a beautiful place to only create and to only be around people who are creating. It is like being on a whole nother planet. I had the opportunity to go to Yaddo, which is probably the premier artist residency. It's like winning an Academy Award. And so you are treated so
you're encouraged. You don't have. I heard about that. And Apex Art. You know, they also were talking about these artisan residencies for 30 days. They give you money. You know, right. You're in a wonderful space where you don't have to worry about bills or
nothing. Everything takes care of it. They allow you to be your. People talk about being authentic and walking in their space. They open the door for you to do that. It's up to you what you do with it, but it is like no other. What was the other part of that question? I have an exhibition happening on the 1st. It's the Fair Housing Month exhibition, and it is a youth exhibition. It'll be at Parks and People here in Baltimore. It's on Liberty Heights, right across from the Baltimore Zoo. Parks and People Fair Housing Month youth exhibition. This is how we're reaching the youth. It's outdoors, so they can come in, so they can play in the park, and they can see art all at the same time. You can be with your parents. You can be a 16-year-old, so you can come technically by yourself after class or to get out of the house during Corona and get some air and see art. So I am a curator and a person in general who thinks about the future. So for me, even before Corona happened, I was thinking about how am I going to find a way to have an outdoor gallery? And it happened with Corona. So I don't think outdoor galleries are going to stop and pop-ups are going to stop just because we get vaccinated and go back in. I think that is part of the future. I think that is how you reach the youth and young people. You have to bring the art to them, essentially.
I agree with that. One of the things that I've tried to do at Busboys and Poets is to exhibit young artists. I have reached out to schools, and I think I've been talking with a couple of schools here in the district about exhibiting their student art, their activism imagery. So I try to provide opportunities because, again, for me, Busboys is open. It's an opportunity for the communities, for everybody.
Right.
And so young people should be able to exhibit their art and get the experience and see other artists and what other people are doing so that they can continue on to whatever their next step is. Another question from Curtis Matthews. What advice would you give to newer artists looking to build their audience and get their work seen? Well,
first of all, make sure you have your Instagram, your platforms. Make sure your work is tight. Make sure it's quality. Make sure you have a vision at your expression. Secondly, do not be afraid to go into places that are untraditional. For instance, the artist I spoke of earlier, who does the Afrofuturism art. When I went to his studio, he told me about he was exhibiting at this restaurant. It's called, I think I told you the story. He was exhibiting at this restaurant on 25th Street here in Baltimore, and it's a West Indian.
Oh yeah, you did tell me that.
And so I go to that restaurant because I like Jamaican food, and so and I said, oh, I didn't know they had art shows there. And he was like, they didn't. I asked the owner, and he said yes. So do not be afraid to ask in a place that you might feel is not traditional, because Busboys in Bowie, it's essentially a restaurant, but they have space. If you feel like my audience is here, these walls are good, ask them. Most people will say yes, but generally the thing is about they don't want your art to get damaged. But that's a risk you have to be willing to take to show your art.
Right. We are taking art at Busboys and Poets. People are going to go on our website to submit their work, because we have the Baltimore location that's coming online in April. And then we have the Columbia, Maryland, that's got huge walls, huge, that is coming online towards the end of the summer and the fall. So, and we have, that makes 9 spaces. So there are still works that are in Virginia. There's a Busboys in Virginia. There's a Busboys in Hyattsville. And I've got to change these out. So please reach
out to Carol.
I'm sorry?
Reach out to Carol.
Because we're looking for work. There was one last question. Zion's art. Okay. It seems like most of the Black artists that you've mentioned come from MICA. And are there other artists outside of the MICA bubble that you've worked with?
Oh, of course. This is funny because I spend a lot of time making sure everyone is not from MICA, but the truth of the matter is that MICA is a world-class art institution.
It is.
We are, and we should be lucky to be able to have those artists here. And so, in fact, one of the artists, Rachel, who I did show, she is not a MICA student, but at the end of the day, it's about your vision, your voice, and expressing that however your art is, and people will notice you, and curators will notice you. Like I said, I definitely have done a lot to make sure that I'm balancing it out. Like, I'll go to Towson State University. I'll go to any university to look for art. That's another thing. Another place where we have great gallery spaces here in Baltimore. Morgan State has
James Lewis, right?
Right. Morgan State has a great gallery. Goucher has a great gallery. Loyola. Towson has a beautiful gallery. CCCB, Baltimore County, has a great art space. I used to go there a lot. My friend who went to school there, so I would go to shows there all of the time. So yeah. And also your job too as an artist, reach out to curators. We want to hear. We want to know what you're doing.
We want to know. We really do. We really do. I understand. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I understand we have one last question. And this one last question comes. Oh, look. Okay. Kirk, if you don't see this, you're going to love this one. This is from Electra E. Weston. She says, would Kirk, the curator, consider styling? His look is fabulous. I told him that too.
So let me tell you about Miss Electra. Miss Electra is an actress, model. She's a friend of mine who I met in Paris. I lived in Paris for a minute. She had been living there for 10 years. She left Spelman College to go to Paris to pursue modeling and ended up being there for 10 years. I met her when I was still a student. And we hit it off. She's like my sister now. She knows my family. I know her mother, father. And she was in the touring company of the Lion King. So she came to Baltimore. She loved Baltimore. She would go to Lexington Market every day. Her name is Electra Erin Weston. She runs a nonprofit called the International Child out of Harlem. Look her up, International Child. Doing great things globally. She goes to Africa and do arts programming. She did this wonderful thing, and I was there to be a part of it at Lincoln Center.
Wow.
And Carnegie Hall. She's amazing, very amazing woman.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess that was the last question, and I am
Carol, my new friend Carol, and my family friend Electra. Is such a great way to start and end the night. I love it.
Oh, well, thank you.
I
Thank
want
you.
I want to thank Patrick who did our slides. So
Patrick and
Patrick,
Alicia. Yes.
thank you,
Thank
Patrick.
you. Thank you. They are very special. And
And
they put this,
Alicia, who I
yeah,
was talking
Alicia Bird. She
to, thank
she kind
you.
of runs everything. Can I say that?
I could
So
tell.
Alicia and Patrick. So they're and creative, extraordinarily creative.
Right.
And they're the support that helps Bus Boys to run to the excellence and standards that it does. You know,
Well,
we follow our leader Andy, but that we all there is some sort of there's a brilliance that is also behind him,
right.
and they are this many people on the staff, many. It's an amazing place.
Right.
So, Kurt, I love this.
Me too. I enjoyed it very much.
Right. So we have to do a part two, and
Yeah.
maybe
Okay,
when.
let's do it live from the location here.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? We should do it. We should
Yeah,
do
when
that.
it opens, we should do that.
Okay,
We can
sounds
bring
good.
some of the artists in,
I'm sorry.
and I can bring some of the artists in. We can bring some of the artists in.
Oh, wouldn't that be? Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. So
Let's do
Patrick
that.
and Alicia, they have just written that down, so they'll keep us to that.
Yeah,
So
that'll be great. The artists will love it.
yeah, me too.
All right.
Because they did that to me in Colombia. They had the artists, they pulled us aside and because we did a mural. In fact, Mia Duvall is doing a mural right now on the Busboys and Poets at 33rd and St. Paul. And she pulled us in to talk about, she pulled all the artists in to talk about the work that they were doing. So I want to thank you. I'm happy. I'm just happy and grateful, and you
Carol.
brought so much to us. Yes, you brought so much to us this evening, and I think this is I think heralding a wonderful partnership and a wonderful growing, spirited, authentic relationship of the arts and programs in Baltimore.
Baltimore.
In
Absolutely.
Baltimore. So yay! Thank you. I'm loving it. All right.
All right.
Thank you all very much. See you all in 2 weeks.
Yes. Good night.
2 weeks. Good night, everybody. Thank you.